Welcome back, everyone, to another season of 4RG Meets. We are Beth and Scott McKinley, and we're so pleased that many of you were able to make that transition from Monday meetings to Tuesday nights, and so thanks for that. And we may have a few that are still looking for us, I'm not sure, but we'll see what happens later.
And that's the permanent change, just FYI.
Yeah,
It will be Tuesdays.
We're going to stay on Tuesdays, yeah.
Yeah.
So for our grandchildren, really appreciates everybody's presence here tonight. It reminds us that people care and that people want action. So a nod to those of you that have shown up to show that you are involved in the climate solutions and the climate justice. And I know sometimes it feels like you're hitting your head against a wall, but everybody's actions do make a difference. And so keep on doing that. So this evening, we are so very pleased to welcome Cathy Orlando from the Citizens Climate Lobby Canada. And now Cathy's a kind of a big deal when it comes to lobbying for climate policy in this country. Guy Hanchette will outline that a little more in a few minutes. Cathy's also in high demand these days, and she's going to be leaving us at 7:55 to join Seniors for Climate Action Network for their national meeting. So we are going to try to keep our preliminaries as short as possible to leave time for the Q&A before she has to sign off. Everybody's, of course, welcome to stay online afterwards for continued conversation among ourselves. Of course, I've muted everybody, but you can easily unmute yourself when it comes to the Q&A. And if you have any technical assist or any technical issues, please reach out in the chat and we'll try to accommodate that.
So I'd like to acknowledge that 4RG is situated on the traditional lands of the Mississauga and the Chippewa Nations, an area covered by the Williams Treaties. And as many of you know, Indigenous communities have long been leaders in climate action, and they bring their traditional knowledge and they bring natural solutions to figuring out how to address the climate crisis and care for ecosystems. And an action that is happening not this Saturday, next Saturday, September 20th, Indigenous Climate Action is joining with other groups, including SCAN and 350.org, for a nationwide day of action, calling on governments to put people, the planet, and peace first, including justice for Indigenous people, for migrants, for workers. So this day of action is called Draw the Line, and it's part of a global week of action for climate and economic justice. We'll put links for all of this into the chat in a minute. Local events here in Peterborough connected with Draw the Line. People are meeting at Peterborough City Hall on September 20th at 10 a.m. You're also invited to attend the Curve Lake Powwow from noon until 5 on September 20th. And the following week, September 27th, is the Pride Parade will be starting in Millennial Park at 12:30, and 4RG will be attending the powwow and the Pride Parade to be in solidarity and to hand out flyers with information about the impacts of climate change and also about Peterborough's climate action plan. So I'll put all those links up in a second.
Now, for those that don't know, For Our Grandchildren is a climate action group based in Peterborough and Nogo-G-Wanong. Our mission is to engage and mobilize people to take effective action in response to the climate crisis. And 4RG has several very active committees, and it's always happy to welcome some new members and new volunteers. The links in the chat will take you to our website, the recordings of past presentations, membership, financial support, and to our newsletter, which includes upcoming events, local stories, and articles on challenges and promising developments connected to climate change.
One final announcement. This weekend, Saturday, September 14th, Glenn Caridas and Nicholas Ormond will be setting off on their 5th annual Ride for the Climate. We'll put that link in the chat in a second. And the funds that will be raised this year are going to be donated to the 5 Counties Children's Center. They're going to use that money to provide children with healthy green space that they can access during their treatment. And
so now we will turn things over to Guy Hanchette to give a proper introduction to tonight's speaker.
Yeah, that's yeah. First, Glenn has announced that he's delaying his ride for the climate this year. He's going in October instead of next weekend, but he's still accepting those donations that are on that website place, and they'll still go to the same place. It's really great. But I want to talk about Cathy a little bit. I know Cathy founded Citizens Climate Lobby Canada in 2010, and you've taken it amazingly far. And the work that CCL has done under your leadership is amazing. But what I'm most impressed with is that we got a carbon pollution price passed in 2018. And I thought at that time, Cathy, that we had won, and I was wondering what we'd have to do next. And I remember talking with you about that and say, what's next, Cathy? We win. But turns out we didn't win. So I first met Cathy in 2015 and stayed loosely connected with Citizens Climate Lobby, dropping in and out. But I've gone lobbying with Cathy and Citizens Climate Lobby to Ottawa and Toronto almost every year. And it's amazing. It's so fun. And part of the reason that it's fun is that Cathy's so organized that we all know what to do when we get there. So 20 or 30 people or 40 people show up to go lobbying 10 different politicians. We all know where to go. We know what to say because we've taken the training. And in addition to being so organized, I have a couple of instances where Cathy has shown amazing creativity and leadership and energy to stick to things. One of them that was creative as anything was to make a big, huge dream catcher on the hill, on Parliament Hill in Ottawa. It was so beautiful. There was man drumming, and we all kind of acted as spokes in this huge dream catcher that he wove around us, taking about an hour and a half to do it. And the other one that I remember is the day that we brought up parachutes that were painted all over the country. And I brought about 5 of them from Peterborough, where we had our Peterborough friends had painted them. But the day was so dreary and rainy and cold. And I felt that other people would have completely given up. The authorities wouldn't let us put them out the way we wanted to. They made us put them out in batches. I have no idea what they were thinking, but Cathy just persisted through all of this and kept our spirits high and got us through the logistics of getting permission to do this. Here we've learned a lot from CCL's approach, especially to lobbying politicians. And what we do is we stay polite, we stay organized, and we stay respectful, and we have something specific to ask for when we get there. And we are getting better at Citizen Climate's Lobby's ability to focus, which means saying no to some things. And it is so hard. And I've a couple of times talked to Cathy on the side saying, I really respect your ability, Cathy, to be able to say no to things, but it's partly because you have really positive things to say yes to. And I've got lots more that I'd like to talk about, but Cathy, I think you want to hear from her, not from me.
That was the most genuine welcome I've ever had. It was beautiful. It was right from your heart. It was beautiful stories. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here tonight. I'm calling in from unceded Algonquin territory. I'm now living part-time in Ottawa. My primary residence still is in Sudbury, also known as Nisswakamuk in Anishinaabe territory, but thank you so much for that. So 2 teachers and myself being a former teacher designed tonight's call. So they said that you're going to be able to handle all this information. They wanted you to hear it. They told me that you're highly engaged, you know the issue, and I'm going to do my best to give you, well, I'll show you what I'm going to show you. How's that? Now, as I'm talking, feel free to stop me if you have any questions, and we will just make this informal. I don't know if this is being recorded or not. Yes, it is. Okay. So we are celebrating 15 years of Citizens Climate Lobby in Canada. 15 years ago, on the second Saturday in September, I sat in on a CCL Canada call, Citizens Climate Lobby call that had Bill McKibben 15 years ago. And it was about getting us all activated for a day of action, a series of days of action in October. I've loved, my favorite Star Wars movie, I don't know if you have one, is Rogue One. And my favorite statement from that is rebellions are built on hope. So I want you to hold on to that as we go through 15 years of citizens climate lobby in Canada. This is us on Parliament Hill. I believe that's in 2016, the first year of the Liberal government, and after 5 years of the Conservative government. I don't think you're in this one, Guy, but we had already met before, and just for the record, that's my daughter there, Sophia Mither, and I will be circling back to her later. So here are the learning objectives. I hope tonight you'll learn a little bit about our history and our unique niche in Canada's NGO ecosystem. Appreciate how we work and our superpowers. Guy already hinted to one of them, which is focus, and find ways to collaborate together. And Guy has already said that we have collaborated. In the past, we did, I think the very first event was an event in Toronto, where we had a carbon tax versus cap and trade discussion. And that was amazing. And yeah, and ever since then, you've been in my life. So thank you.
Cathy, that was an amazing night, and the audience overwhelmingly voted for a carbon tax, and the next day the Liberal government in Quebec passed cap and trade. So that was welcome to disappointment.
Yeah, I think the Ontario government had already decided they were going to do cap and trade because of all of their work with all the like the cement industry and steel industry, but that's okay. We just kept going. Okay, so our mission at Citizens Climate Lobby is to create the political will for a livable world. And we do this by enabling individual breakthroughs in the exercise of people's personal and political power. That's our mission. It's actually, we're very people powered, and the political will is generated locally, just like what you're doing in your region of Canada, Peterborough. Our niche is very unique. We train and support volunteers organized by ridings or constituencies to lobby their parliamentarians and build political will for improvements and persistency in policies enacted that will redirect money away from fossil fuels. That is mostly our focus, is to get money away from fossil fuels via policies. And every single month, we've been providing our volunteers with actions since September 2010. We're still working on what's left of the Greenhouse Gas Pollution Pricing Act, hoping that we don't lose the industrial carbon price. We've been lobbying for border carbon adjustment mechanisms since 2010. In the last 5 years, we've also taken on climate-aligned finances. Off and on, we do clean electricity regulations. And yes, of course, especially now with the gutting of the part of the Greenhouse Gas Pollution Pricing Act and the elimination of the carbon rebate and the consumer carbon price, yes, we are pushing for a cap on emissions. And off and on, we also work at how to regulate the fossil fuel industry. So we've been helping CAPE in that initiative. We also, when Canada was pushing through the Climate Accountability Act in the 2021 era, we helped lobby for that. Only once have we ever deviated. And this is how specific we get with regards to how we lobby. We get right into the nitty-gritty of exactly what we want to see in that policy, and that's why we have to train people. But the more specific our asks are, the more likely we are to get something. Anyways, like I said, only once did we ever deviate from trying to get money away from fossil fuels or in general, just away working in the fossil fuel industry. And we found out from one of our volunteers that there was an anesthetic gas that had like 18 times the global warming potential of its comparable competitor. And we lobbied for 2 years to get this anesthetic removed from the formularies somehow within Canada. Ultimately, we learned that the anesthesiologists were the ones who are going to have, and medical community were going to have to carry this across the line. But we did lobby about 60 times for this at the provincial and federal level. Ultimately, the Canadian Anesthesia Society saw how hard we worked on this, and they actually made it an official recommendation within their I guess, bylaws. And we also have noted that the province of Newfoundland and the territory of Northwest Territories have eliminated this anesthetic gas. So these are the sorts of things we've lobbied for. Yes, we had success with the Greenhouse Gas Pollution Pricing Act, and yes, it was eliminated, the carbon rebate and the consumer carbon price. But to have a perspective on that, they used a lot of disinformation and a lot of money. And in my mind, if you play a game of Monopoly and you steal all the money and then you say you won, you didn't win the game of Monopoly. It's the same with our lobbying and losing. If organizations and especially the fossil fuel industry had to lie to get rid of that price on pollution, then so be it. In the end, we won, Guy. We really did win. We got it, and the only reason we lost it was because of lack of public education by the government and a lot of disinformation. Okay, so that's what we've lobbied for. Note that we do lobby all levels of government. We have active chapters in Nova Scotia, Ontario, Quebec, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and British Columbia. And when we lobby at the provincial level, we wrote together. And when we lobby at the federal level, we wrote together, but we lobby for different policies. We also encourage all of our members to lobby at the municipal level like you do, because getting things like the climate emergency declaration and getting your community on board for climate action helps build political will and helps educate the public. And lastly, many of us belong to multiple organizations. About 6 years ago, we did a poll asking our volunteers how many organizations did they actively volunteer in, and on average it was 6. So, you know, I know some of you probably belong to Fair Vote Canada, your local climate group, and whatever, 350.org or whatever. A lot of our volunteers belong to many multiple organizations. So as Guy was hinting, is we managed to get a lot of work done. Most of this has been done by volunteers. Only in the last 3 years, 2.5 years, we've actually had paid staff. And we have our core values, and these guide us. We're highly focused. You will see that. We have integrity. Every time we do something, it has to be fully sourced, almost like at an academic level. Yep, we're optimistic. We believe that human nature is good, and that's what keeps us going, and that helps us see it in others. We're diverse. The energy that drives us is people's personal power. It's relationships that is at the core of what we do. And yes, we are nonpartisan. But our superpower, as Guy hinted, is focus. I don't know if you remember in 2011 when the Occupy movement broke out in Canada and the United States. And I went to it just to, see what was going on in my own community, and I hung out with them for 6 weeks. And it was wonderful. I learned so much I didn't know, but it was a mass jumble of ideas, and a tiny little bit came out of it. Whereas at Citizens Climate Lobby, we do things in a very organized fashion, and that allows us to get more done. And I think that funnel on the right illustrate that. So we're highly organized and focused. We do this to protect our most precious resource, and that's our volunteers. We do have 2 part-time paid staff, and only since 2023. We have a monthly and yearly rhythm. So like yourselves, we kind of take summer off, and we're kind of really relaxed in December, and I bet you are too. And we have we believe savoring must come first. This is really key to and it took me till about 2013 to learn this, we use emails sparingly. That means they're for yes, no, and meet me here. We have calls, we have bulletin boards, we have internal documents and stuff where we can, but we use very little emails. And regarding that internal bulletin board, if you are a CCL member and you have a CCL chapter, your chapter gets its own internal bulletin board, so you can keep nudging people along without getting all those emails. Lastly, we also have this one rule, and we treat our politicians with respect and admiration for service. We're highly focused on that, and if that's when you go and lobby and you keep that focus in mind, that will help you just be a better lobbyist. Secondly, our other core value I'm going to focus on is optimism, and it's one of our other core values. And along that is integrity. So everything we do comes from research. And we learned at Citizens Climate Lobby on a monthly call from Rob Willer that cynical or doomsday frames of communication reduce belief in climate change. And we learned from Dr. Renee Lertzman, Dr. George Marshall, and Dr. Catherine Hayhoe, who have taught us numerous times, we need to teach hope and truth in communication. And we've learned from Climate Access to use this message triangle. So when we're writing or communicating, this is the message triangle that we use. We identify the challenge. The planet is heating up. We need to get off of fossil fuels with a price on pollution, and the benefits will be a cleaner and fairer world for all. And if you keep using that message, identify the problem or the challenge, briefly outline the pathway, and then show the benefits, this empowers people to act. If you take one communication message from us tonight, I hope this is the one you take. So any questions at this point? Because I'm going to dive deep into CCL Canada history. Any questions or comments? Nope. Okay. So like I said, we're highly organized and we track everything. And we track everything in a database that Citizens Climate Lobby provides us with. We get to punch it in there, and then it gives us lovely charts and graphs at the end of the year. So between 2010, we got ourselves from up to 28 chapters and 70 ridings or constituencies. We conducted 3 national conferences on Parliament Hill and 2 at lobby conference and lobbying days at Queen's Park. We lobbied politicians 250 times in our first 5 years. And we documented 865 times our words appeared in newspapers. We actually empowered a parliamentarian, MP Bruce Heyer, who eventually joined the Green Party but was in the NDP, to debate carbon fee and dividend in the House of Commons repeatedly. And we produced professional public service announcements that aired on TV in the lead up to election 2015, including during the World Series. And gotta imagine, we did all this with 0 paid staff. I'm just gonna make sure you can hear my sound. Okay, so here is Bruce Heyer. You've gotta imagine, it's 2013. It's our first time on Parliament Hill. We are up in the Parliament, in the stands or whatever, watching Bruce Heyer as he does this for us.
Mr. Speaker, the Citizens Climate Lobby is on the Hill this week calling on MPs to put a price on carbon pollution, specifically a carbon fee and dividend system. Fee and dividend is far more effective than cap and trade. It's a revenue-neutral fee that punishes pollution, puts money into taxpayers' pockets, and creates jobs. Mr. Speaker, will the Conservatives protect the environment and taxpayers and support carbon fee and dividend?
The Honourable Parliament.
So that was Bruce Heyer, November 19th, 2013. Imagine lobbying for something and then having a parliamentarian actually announce it in the House of Commons. It was glorious. And when when Guy said, Cathy has done so much work, I have to humbly say it's Cathy plus a cast of about 5 or 6 dozen incredible volunteers who have just pushed and pushed and pushed. So I've never done this work alone, and I'm so humbled by what everybody has done to get us there. Here's another project we did. We had a volunteer who used to work in the advertising industry in Toronto, and she had retired and she was living in Nelson, and she said, you need public service announcements. I can do it for you. We just need to raise $10,000. And we raised $10,000 and we put together these 3 public service announcements. And if you didn't know this, in Canada, if you are a registered not-for-profit, you can have public service announcements aired for free on television and on radio, and those media providers get tax credits. So there's a bank that you can put them in, and that's how we got these aired for free. And this is one of the 3 that we made during the election in 2015.
We insure our health, our homes, and our cars. So why not our environment? 14 of the 15 warmest years in recorded history have occurred since the year 2000. Carbon emissions are the problem. Our national safety, economic well-being, food security, and the very survival of future generations are at stake. The good news is that it is solvable. Find out how at citizensclimatelobby.ca. Let's make the environment part of the debate.
Great. So in 2015, there was an election. Canada went to Paris. There was the Paris Agreement. And we pretty much started getting hints that Canada was going to have a price on pollution. And that really helped us grow because that was our niche. We were really working hard on getting a price on pollution. We grew to 36 chapters covering 85 ridings. In those 2 years, we conducted 5 national conference and lobbying days in Ottawa and 2 provincial conference and lobbying days in Ontario. In those 2 years, we lobbied 489 times. And in those 2 years, we appeared in newspapers over 1,300 times. It was wild. People were working their butts off. And in June of 2016, we had this really lovely reception on Parliament Hill, and we even got an invitation to meet with the Conservative Environment Committee. And we sat with them for 2 hours. And you gotta imagine, this is in June 2016. It was amazing. It was incredible. I'll just never forget it. And Vanessa is still with us, and so is Mary Blake, and I think a couple other people are still with us there too. So just an incredible amount of work, and it was Mary Blake that made that happen. So the big year, 2018. So this is the founder of Citizens Climate Lobby. Marshall Saunders founded Citizens Climate Lobby in the USA in 2007. I met him at a climate reality training session in 2010 in Nashville, and thinking I was US American, he recruited me to Citizens Climate Lobby, and Citizens Climate Lobby Canada was born. Marshall passed away in 2019, and I wish you could have met him. Extremely generous man, donated millions of dollars to build this organization in the USA and across the world that helps people lobby their governments for effective climate policies. But this is the letter he sent us. You have to remember, it's October 2018. Trump 1.0 is happening in the United States of America. Dear Canadian partners, thank you for all the efforts you've put forth this year and for everything you've achieved. It hasn't been an easy one for us, those of us south of your border, but your success gives us hope. With Canada's national carbon pricing law looking more and more like it could be carbon fee and dividend, you remind me just how powerful our grassroots efforts really are. Our grassroots know no borders. Our energy and passion have catalyzed positive change in many countries since we began this adventure to build political will for a livable world. And I continue to be in awe of this beautiful international partnership. Best of luck as you continue to push things forward on Parliament Hill this week. You are making the impossible possible, and I am so grateful to you. So that's our founder and president, his message to us on that fateful day, time that we lobbied on Parliament Hill And, oh, look who's there. There's Guy. Yeah, and we were on Parliament Hill. It was a wet and rainy day. We conducted 2 national conferences that year. This is late October. We grew to 38 chapters and we covered about 100 ridings. In 1 year, we appeared in newspapers 728 times. We've never beat that record since there. And we recorded 525 handwritten letters sent to Parliament, not digital letters, people actually sending handwritten letters. We used to do that a lot. And we lobbied over 200 times that year. This was our most active year ever. And we got what we lobbied for. We finally got a price on pollution with the money back to the people. Yay for us. And these are some of the kids that joined us, and they're all in university now. Okay, we continued to lobby. The Greenhouse Gas Pollution Pricing Act was not perfect, so we had to make it better. We started lobbying for climate accountability laws and improvements to the Greenhouse Gas Pollution Pricing Act. We wanted rebate checks or rebate installments in our bank accounts, not that income tax shift. And we've survived 2 federal elections, and then the pandemic struck. And then we also had to see what was happening with the Greenhouse Gas Pollution Pricing Act as it went through the Supreme Court. Thank you, Eco-Justice and all who fought to make it, that happen. And we still managed, even though there was a pandemic, to have 5 conference and lobbying days federally, and an Ontario breakfast and lobbying day in 2019, and a virtual provincial lobbying day in April. We just kept going to Ottawa, and we lobbied over 120 times per year in 2019 and 2020. And we grew to 41 active chapters. And when the pandemic struck, we really emphasized self-care. Like I said, we record everything. So this is our action reports for 2023, and we're starting, and then in 2024, we're getting more active. We're coming out of the other side of COVID. And now this is us in 2025 versus 2024. So the lobbying is way down, but that's because we've had many elections last year, including in Ontario and federally, so lobbying will be way down, plus not all reports are in. Our media publications are somewhat down, but we've got 3 months to go. We've got a lot more contact with legislature. We're doing a lot more outreach. We're on track to pretty much match other legislator event encounters. Our grass tops outreach, we've done so much networking, it's crazy. Our volunteers are still training and doing a lot of things. We're on track to exceed what we did last year, and our generic will be pretty much the same. So we record everything, and just trying to show you that we do record a lot of what we do. And then we actually plan once a year as well. And 2 years ago, we started our 2-year plan of trying to get this, figure out what we were doing for 2 years. And I know this is extremely busy. I'm not going to go into everything, but I just want to focus over here, and then in the top right-hand corner. We want our volunteers to keep in mind that the world is decarbonizing. It is really happening. There are now 4 Charter 7 cases. So Charter 7 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. There's La Rose et al. At the federal level. There's Mather et al. At the Ontario level, and 2 citizen climate lobbyists are involved in that, including my own daughter, Sophia. Then there's the Sask Power versus and the CPJ, and plus and the CPJ case. So there's Sask Power, and CPJ is also Citizens for Public Justice is also challenging Saskatchewan on not closing down their coal. And plus there's the International Court of Justice ruling. So a lot of incredible legal things happening that give us hope. There's obviously, we had our last carbon rebates in April. We've been a CanRac member since 2011. We do tons of media, we have scheduled calls, and the weather is impacting our work all the time. We will be in Ottawa next month at a conference, and I will get to that in a moment. And we're doing a phone zap next week, which I will talk about in a moment. So like Guy said, we're very, very organized, and we track this together. So question was, how can we work together? Well, next week we have a phones app, and we are going to be asking our provincial parliamentarians to make energy power procurement so more competitive. Because right now it looks like, if I'm not mistaken, fossil gas and nuclear are getting a little bit of favorable treatment here in Ontario. So, and we have a surprising example in Texas. Texas has made their power procurement more competitive, and they're the fastest growing solar in the United States. And in fact, companies are going there because their electricity is so cheap comparatively. So in alignment with, you know, environmental and social justice and Indigenous rights, we would like for our governments to make energy procurement, power procurement more competitive. And we also would like for our government to fund, do you have a heating plant? Are you working on decarbonizing in Peterborough? Like trying to get your community to have a climate plan that decarbonizes it, Guy?
Yes.
And are they
And,
having a hard time getting the carbon out of heating buildings?
yes.
Yes.
You know, that's one of the places we're working hard at the municipal level. But I also want to say that we have had 2 phone zaps here, and one of them, the second one, was very instrumental in our supporting of the local climate change action plan version 2.0. And the mayor, as he was introducing this in the council, said he's never had as many phone calls about anything as he had over this. So we really do believe that we made a difference with that one.
Oh, that's fantastic. Phone zaps do make a difference. If politicians don't hear from us and they only hear from industry, they don't think we care. And they get really scared and they won't move. They need to hear from us. So good on you for doing that phone zap. So we are asking the provincial government to fund our municipal government's capacity to develop what are called heating plans. So determine how they're going to decarbonize their heating systems while also keeping everybody warm. And they need the data. And so the government needs to give them data to do that. So we're doing a phone zap on Tuesday to our provincial parliamentarians. We're also lobbying in Ottawa in October if you're interested. And every Wednesday night, you can join us to find out a lot more about us. And at 8 p.m. and at 9 p.m. every Wednesday, we write letters to the editor, and it is totally fun. So I've got 2 more slides, but are there any questions about this? Okay. So what is giving me hope is my last, what I'd like to close with. What is giving me hope is being on the front, having front row seats to the greatest show on earth. And that is watching everyday citizens engage in climate action with their governments and their citizenry and with each other. I get to hear stories firsthand about what is going on. So 2 emails I got this week. One, my MP said, and this is from somebody, that the government is doing stuff on climate action and not to worry. But things are going to have to be more stealth in terms of climate action from our government for whatever reason. They're just not going to be as loud as the last government. Another email I got from a province that has newly signed on. We have a newly signed on group there, and they've been working really hard at the provincial level, and they've been working at it all summer long. And the person sent me an email saying, that lobbying that you do actually does work. And we got a meeting, we're getting a meeting with the environment critic in our province. So, I mean, having front row seats to that is just amazing. And then going on a climate action network calls and hearing what you're doing in your region of Canada just gives me so much hope. But Scott and Beth wanted me to touch on these 6 because I just was going on and on about what kept me so hopeful. One have you all heard about patriotic millionaires? Well, there's patriotic millionaires in the United States, and we finally got a chapter or a constituency here in Canada. And basically, they are millionaires that have over $10 million in income that they can easily access. So it's not locked away. I guess it's liquid, at least $10 million liquid income. And they want the government to tax them more. And given that we are in a time of the most extreme income inequality Canada has had since we've started records in 1979, this is awesome. They want to be taxed more, and this could help pay for a lot of the things that we need. So they're giving me hope. I don't know if you all know, but the media landscape online is over-dominated by the far right. And Midas Touch, which is a left-leaning organization, has come to Canada, and Charlie Angus is leading that. So he's, and this I hope will spark more to kind of balance what's going on the internet. Again, those legal cases, whether it be the Gen Climate Action, the Ontario lawsuit for which my daughter's in, or Alex is in, or the other lawsuits give me hope. Wish I had a lot of time, and it will be introduced at our conference. We will be delving a lot more into En-ROADS. Is the En-ROADS Climate Solutions Simulator. It's really cool, and I encourage you to explore it more or come to our conference and meet some of our En-ROADS ambassadors. Have any of you heard of the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty? They are doing fantastic work, getting governments to align on having a treaty that will unwind us from fossil fuels. Mostly what we work at is the consumer end of fossil fuels, but the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty is working at the production end. So having countries come to agreements on how they're going to unwind their fossil fuel production. We need that because every single country thinks they're going to sell their last drop. And lastly is the United Church of Canada Youth Climate Motivators. I don't know if you know about them, but if you have a United Church community and you belong to it, get to know your youth climate motivators. They are inspiring, and the United Church is doing beautiful work with them. So that's what's giving me hope. And I think that's it. So thank you, and I can answer questions.
Okay, before we get to the questions, I have to say I just met Cathy on the phone a couple of weeks ago, and what really stood out for me was her enthusiasm and her energy, and the idea, that what we focus on is so important. And I love that quote: "Rebellions are built on hope." And we get bogged down and depressed and lethargic when we don't think there's any hope. But what I love about what you've done, Cathy, is you've showed us that the hope is actually based on solid data. Like, this isn't just Pollyanna, everything's going to be fine. It's so you've told us about your core values: focus, optimism, collaboration, respect, empowering people, and it's interesting to see how your data collection is so fundamental to driving the decisions and the planning, and sharing the progress. We see what we look for, and so when we share the progress and we look for the progress and we connect with other people, it's just so empowering. And I think it's really important too, we talked about this on the phone, that importance of self-care, turning it off and walking away every once in a while, taking the summer off, taking Christmas off, and just refilling your cup. And then part of that, I love that triangle, the focus being, these are the challenges, this is a pathway, and these are the benefits. And for our grandchildren, some of the members, I think Political Action Committee just put together a fabulous flyer in the last year, I believe, which is about the benefits on health and on our pocketbooks. And you look at that and it's just like, yeah, absolutely, this is what we have to do. So yes, this has been wonderful. This has been recorded. We'll stop the recording now. Cathy had asked us to do that. And we will have this video uploaded in the next day or two on our YouTube channel and on our website. So thank you so much.